Hello, Places for the Past friends, and welcome to, well, obviously Places for the Past. I am in Manchester, having a look around this church and its churchyard, but before we go into too much detail here, do you want to see something really cool that we found up in Scotland a couple of weeks ago? Here we are by the magic of television. It is blowing an absolute hoolie and we are in the coastal village of Eyemouth. None of this is going to work. I think the audio is going to be absolutely useless, but bear with me and I'll show you some interesting things that I just found. First of which is these, a monument to 189 East Coast fishermen, of which 129 belong to Eyemouth, who perished at sea on the same day. I've got no idea what that story is. If anybody wants to find out and let me know, that would be really cool. 14th October 1881, some sort of disaster struck. Right, let's go look at some gravestones, because there are some really interesting gravestones here. That is obviously not one of them, but here you go. This is affectionate remembrance. Again, look, seaside community, the anchor. Mary Dougal, wife of James Collin of High Street, Eyemouth, which is exactly there. That's the High Street. And next to that, we've got Thomas Coburn, what's that say? Ure. He was an Ure, whatever an E-E-W-E-R is. No idea. Something to do with use, perhaps? Don't know. In Eyemouth, died 1805. So this is quite old, isn't it? Next up, we have got in memory of James Taylor of somewhere that I can't read. Anyway, somewhere, who died 1861. And Elizabeth Harvey or Taylor, his wife, I guess, who died 1866. This is a slate one, so that's why it is so well preserved. There's a great example of slate as a material for your tombstone coming up in a wee while, so stay excited for that. I bet you can't wait. Erected in memory of Jane Patterson, the relict or widow of William Laidlaw. 1800, almost into the 1700s. I predict we're going to get into 1700s quite soon because I've been here already. And here's not a war grave, but it is sacred to the memory of Captain James Sinclair, late of the 81st Regiment of Foot, which must have been like an army lot back in the 1800s. Yeah, 1831 it says there. Can't really see where John is. I'm going to rattle around now because it's actually very cold, but this is a memory of Daniel McIntosh. Again, look, you know you're in a nautical place. He was a mariner who died 21st April 1823, and his daughter who died young. It is such a cool wee setup in here. Obviously they've cleared the stones at some point from the middle and they are now all dotted about around the edge. And there's a really cool building over in the corner, but I'll keep that. I'll keep that. That'll be a surprise. Not the toilets. I love it, as you know, when we get little masons addendums or little masons mistakes, because this says erected by Alexander Aitchison, and then in very small font, fisherman. I told you I put fisherman on my stone. Oh, it's alright, we'll squeeze it in, it'll be fine. In memory of his daughter Jane, who departed from this life on the 25th September 1857, aged 1 year. These are all 1800s. There is Alexander Henderson. Is that Alexander Henderson, was he? No, it was Aitchison next door. That's an Aitchison, that's a Henderson. Don't get them mixed up, Ian. You think I only just read it a few seconds ago, at least remember that much. Anyway, erected by Andrew Howliston. Big Lawburn must be a place in memory of his son, who died 1823. These are all really quite old. This one is quite would have been quite imposing. Would have been a stone base at one point, obviously. Erected in memory of John Hood, who died suddenly at Eyemouth 22nd of August 1859, aged 58. And his daughter and various other family members all the way down there. Can't really read very much on that one, but look at the calligraphy on this. To use a big word for this time of day, calligraphy. In memory, with lots of squiggly scrollings, of William Deans, who died at Bighamburn. I don't know where that is. Bighamburn, being near here somewhere. But look at even the 28th of October 1867. That is really cool. I just love that font, the sort of gothic font. This stone is from somebody who was not a fisherman. This guy was a farmer at a place called Soriston, which I've never heard of, in Bamburghshire, which doesn't exist anymore. Right, next, down here. Erected by, sorry, I burped there. I'm going to leave that in just for I'll probably edit it out. If I just burped here in your ear, I can only apologise. Erected by John Wares, an officer of the fishery. All right, in memory of James Wares, his son. So an officer of the fishery. And this is why you don't want sandstone for your eternal marker. It's also getting really windy. None of this is actually going to work, I don't think. If this microphone is picking up anything that I'm saying, then you're very lucky. You'll get my dulcet tones. Although I'm not sure many people would would actually count that as being lucky. Anyway, we're heading up the hill now, and we're not going to stop and read every single one of these because, as I said before, I mentioned it's a wee bitty windy. This is storm something or other that is causing absolute chaos. This is in memory of George Spears, who was a seaman, and that's not funny. That word is not funny. Well, it's not funny. Who died 1784. Sorry, George. Nothing funny about being a seaman. Another stone with a bit of a sad story, erected by John Dougal, a fisherman from Eyemouth, in memory of his son George, who died aged 25. A bit of biography: he was drowned in the River Clyde. In 1869, his body was found near Dumbarton and brought here for interment, so he's out under that field behind me somewhere. I'm guessing at some point all the way up here stones would have been against the wall, because you get up to here and there's that, which is obviously buried quite a long way down. So this hill that I'm climbing up must, yeah, you know what I'm saying, yeah, it's all, this has all been built up. But then up here, it's not, so this must have been like a vertical precipice. So I'm gibbering sorry. Isabella Jane Home is in there fenced off. She was the wife of Captain the Honourable Charles Sinclair, RM Royal Marines. And then more sandstone that's very, very gone. But look at the wall as well, that's all been eroded just by the proximity to the sea. And there's yeah, very nice, so it adds a bit of patina. And this is erected by members of the United Presbyterian Church, Eyemouth, in memory of the Reverend Thomas Pearson, their pastor, who died 1855 in the 40th year of his age. It wasn't that old. And then this person said, do me an impressive stone, make it sandstone. And they did that. And the person next to them on this wall, which I'm guessing is original, this must be original location, said, yeah, I want an impressive sandstone, and what he's got is that. And the one next said, yeah, can you do mine on slate? Can you give me a sandstone with a bit of slate on it? So old Jane Bell, the wife of Robert Jerdan Flesher in Eyemouth, who died 17th January 1867, as good as new. And if you want to get an idea how close this little graveyard was to the sea, or is to the sea, there it is there. Can you see the sea over there, in the grips of Storm Amy, or whatever this storm is called? At some point, someone with lots of money's family has been in this corner. It's largely eroded. Arthur William Swanson, lieutenant in the Inniskilling Dragoons, second son of J.A. Swanson of Marshall Meadows, killed in action at, let's see that, Torvredden, South Africa. South African viewers, Torvredden, while trying to save the life of a wounded trooper in 1900. That's a cool story. I love the stories behind these stones, as you've probably noticed if you've watched any of these before. Let's have a look. This is in memory of more Swansons. James Swanson, Esquire of Marshall Meadows, who died at Glassytine, 11th of May 1835, age 57. And then slightly less legible, yeah, no idea. We're now going to go down here, and I'm going to try and not fall over, because last time I came down here I was with De Niro, and he just about pulled me over. Stupid Doug. I was trying to read this, hang on, move the plants out of the way. I was trying to read this and I couldn't actually figure out what it was saying, and then my brain's worked out it's actually it's in Latin. So if you want to learn some Latin, there you are. Rev Jacobus Alamus blah 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 IH Ecclesia ad ostium blah blah blah. Yeah, you get the idea. I'm not even going to attempt to murder the Latin language, but right next door to that you've got Sacred to the memory of Andrew Edgar, who died here, not here obviously, but in this vicinity, 21st September 1806, age 50, and his wife and their 3 daughters, 1859, 1870 and Elizabeth 1887. Somebody else that should really have had got some slate, then you'd know who it was. And next to that, memory of Walter Clark, a labourer in Eyemouth. It's all these professions. I love this. It's, what does it say? It says, an honest, straightforward and harmless man. When I first looked at this, I thought it said charmless. An honest, straightforward, charmless and harmless man. Hello, Walter. A scroll top stone usually means they're a bit older, although this isn't actually. That's 1867, but the one next to it is definitely older. You can tell always by the font. In memory of John Scott in Eyemouth, who died there. So I think 1728 or 1790, anyway, 1700s. And then another, no, that's all you can see on that one. There is more writing there, but it's not very legible. You can probably see it better on the camera than I can here in real life. And the tallest of the remaining tombstones, memory of Robert Gilson, who died 1820, that's 1820, okay. That's still quite old then. Right, let's keep going down here towards that wee building that I alluded to earlier. It's really nice that they've done this. There's a couple of similar graveyards that I've discovered when I've been out exploring. It's just like a nice open space for people today, but the stones are still there. In memory of William Patterson, who died 1867, aged 66, and John, his son, who drowned. See, another nautical, meta-nautical end. Oh wow, I've just noticed this on the next one. I'm going to try and gibber until we get to it. So that stone over there is in quite good condition, in memory of the Reverend John Turnbull. Look at this one, look at the way that's weathered. That is so cool. You can still see memory, and then there's a turn, obviously a Turnbull, and then the ANL, and then something, and then the letter N. That is so smart. Because the one next to it, made out of better stone obviously, is still fine. There are some stones in behind that bush, but I'm not that brave. But this is what I want to show you. Look at this. How is that for a wee oh, hang on, I've just been sidetracked. Look at the size of that thing. That's got to be a person of some importance. Unfortunately, it's a person of some importance covered in brambles. But look at the bits that are falling off this thing, and this thing is so cool. Look at the patina on that and the weathering and stuff. It's obviously made out of bits of old gravestone, because look at that chap there. There's a skull, obviously, and some decoration. Wow! Look! There's a bit of somebody's tombstone, and it says 1729. You can't see who it was. Alan something departed this life, the year of God 1729. And moving around, unfortunately it's not open, but I'm probably not brave enough to go for a look if it was. Bits of other tombstones going all the way around here, and down there, the last one, you can just about see the vestiges of the skulls and the crossbones and stuff. No idea what this wee house was actually built for. Maybe like a night watchman's office or something, don't know, but certainly worth a wee stop. I hope you've enjoyed this little look around this cemetery that I did not know was here. Sometimes the unplanned adventures are the best ones. Pretty cool, eh? Lots and lots of stories there. Right, back to a wee explore of this place in Manchester.